Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm here to bring you my TBR for May for Asian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So just like I've done for a bunch of other months this year, I have a TBR, or books that I would like to prioritize reading for the month of May. I'd like to particularly prioritize Asian and Asian heritage authors, as well as Pacific Islander authors, and try to cover some books that are things I've already been interested in reading, but maybe I just need a little bit of extra priority to get to them. So I'll link below the video where I talk about my monthly priorities and some TBRs of previous months. But the way that I do this is that these books are simply the things I would like to prioritize checking out from the library. So not necessarily this is the only list of books that I'm going to read, or I will read all of these books, but just these are the ones that I'd like to try to get myself to focus on. So the first book on my priority list for May is Ninefox Gambit by Yoon Lee. And this is the first book in a series that I've heard a lot of people talk about on BookTube, and the third book in the series is actually nominated for a Hugo this year. So I'd love to get up to that before it's time to vote. And it is a sci-fi series. I think probably a pretty hard epic space opera type sci-fi series. This first book, I believe, centers around a spaceship captain who has some sort of advisor that is like a consciousness of a previous general who was totally brilliant but also kind of maybe massacred a lot of people. So I'm not entirely sure about the plot, but I just know it's going to be a grand epic space opera, and I'm very interested in it. Next is The Black Tides of Heaven by J.Y. Yang. This book is a fantasy series that I think deals with a lot of gender issues, and I've heard this one talked about on BookTube a lot as well. I think it focuses on a set of twins who each develop in different ways, and they end up being on opposite sides of a political spectrum. And I think that causes a lot of conflict and tension. So it sounds really interesting, and in particular, I'm interested in this book because I have read a short story by J.Y. Yang in the collection The Djinn Falls in Love, which was something that I'd heard about from Bex and John at 900 Books, which I'll link below. And I really loved that short story. And so I thought, you know, hey, I want to read more by this author, and I've heard people mention The Black Tides of Heaven, and so I'm going to give it a shot. Next is The Terracotta Bride by Zen Cho, and this is a book that I've also heard a lot about on BookTube. It seems to focus on the afterworld, the world of death in Chinese mythology, and there is a woman made out of terracotta who is a bride to a man, a human who has died. But into this world, there comes a new human bride of that man, which upsets the social structure and puts the terracotta bride in a bit of a bad position. So it seems like this story is going to involve a lot of very interesting mythology, as well as kind of interesting social structures. So that makes it very interesting for me. I did read a book a year or two ago called The Ghost Bride by Yangsze Choo, which was similarly focusing on kind of a bride after death for some powerful man who had died. And I really love the mythology in that book. So I thought this would be a great story to give a try. Next, I'd like to read In the Vanishers' Palace by Aliette de Bodard, which is a Vietnamese mythology-inspired retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And it seems like this story is really fascinating, not only for the Vietnamese mythology, but also because it seems like it addresses a lot of social issues, issues of colonialism, of slavery, of gender and sexuality. And it seems like it's going to be a really cool retelling, as well as just something that brings up a lot of interesting themes to think about. Next, I'm interested in Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. This is a much more literary book that I've heard a bit about, and I think it has won some awards. It's supposed to be quite good. It is a multi-generational family story, and it is about a Korean family in Japan and sort of their trials and tribulations. I know only a little bit about what the interactions between Koreans and Japanese are, but I know that it's a bit fraught. So this should be a very interesting look at some of those political issues, as well as just an interesting family drama. So I've heard great things about it, and I look forward to giving it a try. Another literary work that I've heard great things about and would like to give a try is The Sympathizer by Viet and Nguyen. And this book is set, I believe, in the 1970s, and it focuses on a Vietnamese spy who immigrates to the US and I think ends up with sort of his loyalties torn. So again, this is a literary work. I've heard good things about it, so it should be fascinating to learn a little bit more about the Vietnam War and about that experience of torn loyalties and immigration. Next, I'm interested in reading Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. And Kazuo Ishiguro is a Japanese author that I've heard a lot of people mention before, but I've never actually read anything from. So I thought it would be a great chance to give this author a try. This book seems like it's focused on an English boarding school and some issue, some mystery that happened there. It seems to focus on some moral questions. So I'm not really sure what to expect here, but I'd like to try it out and see what I think of Ishiguro. Another Japanese author that I have been meaning to give a try forever is Haruki Murakami. So I have heard amazing things about this author, and I thought that this month I would give Kafka on the Shore a try. So it seems like this book is a magical realism book with talking cats and some other things. I'm not really sure. I've heard that Murakami is maybe a little intense and hard to wrap your mind around. So we'll see how I like this. I am interested, at least, in giving this author a try. Next, I'm interested in picking up some short story collections, the first of which is The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories by Ken Liu. This is a collection that I believe won a lot of awards. I don't know much about it other than that it is like sci-fi and fantasy and has won awards. So I'm trying to read more short stories, and I thought I would give this one a try. Lastly, I'm interested in reading Stories of Your Life and Others by Ching. This is another short story collection of sci-fi fantasy stories, and I haven't read anything from this before, but I have seen the movie Arrival, which is based on one of the stories in this collection, and I loved Arrival, so I'm really fascinated and interested in reading the rest of these stories. So those are the 10 books that I would like to prioritize for National Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I noticed that I didn't actually end up with any Pacific Islander authors on this list, which is mainly just because I didn't have anything tagged in Libby, my library app, that was by Pacific Islander authors. So if you guys know of any Pacific Islander authors or books that you would recommend, please do leave me a comment below and let me know who those are so that I can take a look and maybe add them to my TBR for future months. I hope that you guys are looking forward to May as well and have good reading plans. If anybody else is focusing on Asian literature for that month, please let me know. I'd be very interested in what you're planning to read.